Nothing actually explodes in this episode, and that's exactly why it's terrifying. Landman Season 2, Episode 6 opened with the kind of tension you don't hear, you feel. The kind that sits in the room, heavy and uncomfortable, where every character knows something is wrong, but no one wants to say it out loud. This is the episode where the cracks stop being subtle, where the smiles feel forced, where every conversation sounds polite on the surface, but dangerous underneath. And most importantly, this is the moment where it becomes painfully clear that everything holding this world together is starting to come apart. Tommy walks into this episode already on unstable ground. He's still wearing the mask of control, still speaking with confidence, still offering advice like it carries weight. But the problem is obvious now. People are listening and then doing whatever they want anyway. His authority hasn't vanished overnight. It's eroding slowly, quietly, in a way that's almost worse. You can see it in the way conversations end just a second too early, in the way decisions get made without looping him in the way his warnings are acknowledged, then politely ignored. Tommy isn't being challenged head on, he's being bypassed. And that realization is hitting him harder than any open confrontation ever could. Cammy, meanwhile, is no longer testing her power. She's using it confidently, decisively, and without asking for permission. Episode 6 makes it clear that she's done living in the shadow of someone else's experience. She's no longer interested in waiting, double checking, or second guessing herself. Every move she makes feels bold, intentional, and just reckless enough to be dangerous. And that's what makes her so compelling here. You want to root for her strength, but there's a constant voice in the back of your head asking whether she's moving too fast, too far, with too much confidence and not enough protection. What makes this shift even more unsettling is how Cammy now hears Tommy's voice. What once sounded like wisdom now sounds like hesitation. What used to feel protective now feels limiting. And that change didn't happen by accident, because Galliano is everywhere in this episode without ever seeming present. He doesn't dominate scenes, he doesn't argue, he doesn't force opinions, he simply nudges, suggests, reframes. He takes Tommy's certainty and quietly turns it into doubt. He takes Cammy's confidence and sharpens it into defiance. And the scariest part is how natural it all feels. No dramatic manipulation, no obvious betrayal. Just influence spreading like a slow leak no one notices until the damage is already done. Galliano's calm is almost unsettling here. While everyone else feels tense, reactive, and emotionally charged, he remains steady, observant, patient. He watches people talk themselves into decisions he benefits from. He lets others clash while he collects leverage. And every time he speaks, it feels less like advice and more like planting a seed that will grow exactly the way he wants it to. You don't see him winning yet, but you can feel him positioning himself for it. At the same time, Cooper's storyline starts pressing in from a completely different direction, but somehow carries the same weight. The chaos in his personal life mirrors the instability at the company almost too perfectly. What once felt exciting now feels overwhelming. The speed of his relationship, the weight of responsibility, the reality of consequences are all starting to close in on him. Cooper is realizing that confidence doesn't equal readiness, and enthusiasm doesn't protect you from fallout. He's stepping into situations that demand maturity he hasn't fully developed yet, and the show doesn't let him escape that truth. The brilliance of episode 6 is how all of this unfolds without shouting. No big blowups, no dramatic ultimatums. Just pressure building scene by scene. Every decision feels slightly off. Every conversation feels loaded. You can sense that the characters are standing on fault lines that are about to shift, even if no one knows exactly when or how. Tommy feels it. Cammy feels it. Cooper feels it. And Galliano? Well, Galliano seems to be counting on it. By the end of this first stretch, the question isn't whether something will go wrong. It's who will realize the danger first. Will Tommy fight back before he's completely sidelined? Will Cammy recognize the cost of standing alone? Or has Galliano already moved too far ahead for anyone to stop what's coming next? By the time section 2 begins, the tension is no longer hiding in the background. It's sitting right in the open, daring someone to acknowledge it. And this is where Landman Season 2, Episode 6 becomes genuinely unsettling. Because now, the characters aren't just making risky decisions, they're doubling down on them. Tommy spends this part of the episode doing something we've rarely seen him do before, reacting instead of leading. Every move he makes feels just a step behind the moment. He still understands the game better than almost anyone in the room, but understanding no longer guarantees control, and that realization is slowly breaking him. You can see it in the way he chooses his words more carefully, in the way he hesitates before pushing back, in the way he seems to realize that pushing too hard might cost him even more influence. The man who once shaped outcomes is now trying to minimize damage, and that's a terrifying place for someone like Tommy to be. Cammy, on the other hand, has crossed a line she can't uncross. She's no longer experimenting with leadership. She's enforcing it. Decisions are made quickly, sometimes impulsively, and always with absolute confidence. The episode makes sure you feel the weight of that confidence. Because while it looks powerful on the surface, it's also isolating her from the one person who used to act as her safety net. Cammy isn't unaware of the risks. She simply believes the risk is worth it. And that belief is what makes her both impressive and dangerous. Galliano's presence in this section becomes almost suffocating, not because he's loud or aggressive, but because he's comfortable. Too comfortable. While everyone else is tense, he's settled in, watching events unfold exactly as he anticipated. He never takes credit, never claims authority. Yet somehow, people keep turning to him, keep trusting him, keep leaning on his perspective. And that's when it becomes clear that Galliano isn't fighting for power. He's positioning himself as the only option left when everything else collapses. The manipulation here is subtle but relentless. Tommy feels his relevance slipping and can't quite explain why. Cammy feels emboldened, unaware of how much of her certainty has been reinforced by someone with his own agenda. And Galliano lets them believe these shifts are organic, natural, inevitable. That's what makes him so effective. By the time anyone questions his influence, it may already be too late. Meanwhile, Cooper's storyline tightens the emotional knot even further. The excitement that once fueled his choices has fully given way to anxiety. The responsibility he rushed into now feels heavy, unavoidable, and permanent. He's realizing that there's no trial period for adulthood, no reset button. And the fear that comes with that realization starts bleeding into every part of his life. His confidence wavers, his instincts falter. And for the first time, he seems to understand that wanting something badly doesn't mean you're ready to handle it. What makes this section so powerful is how the show draws parallels without spelling them out. Cooper is learning that rushing forward creates consequences you can't outrun. Tommy is learning that experience doesn't protect you from being replaced. Cammy is learning that authority comes with isolation. And Galliano is quietly proving that patience beats force every single time. By now, every interaction feels fragile. One wrong tone, one poorly timed suggestion, one decision made without full context. It all feels like it could snap at any moment. The episode doesn't rush toward a payoff because it doesn't need to. The discomfort is the point. Watching characters realize they may have already crossed points of no return is far more unsettling than any explosive confrontation. As this episode moves toward its final moments, the balance of power feels fundamentally altered. Tommy is still standing, but no longer steering. Cammy is steering, but with fewer allies than she realizes. Cooper is standing at the edge of a life that demands more than he's prepared to give. And Galliano? He's exactly where he wants to be. Calm, central, untouchable. The real question now isn't who's right or wrong. It's who's going to pay the price first. Because when everything finally does fall apart, will anyone be able to say they didn't see it coming?